Welcome to the channel Coinexa Vault, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you cold. Have you ever held a penny, just an ordinary, everyday, copper-colored penny, and thought to yourself, what if this little thing is worth more than my car, more than my house, more than everything sitting in my bank account right now? Because today, we are not talking about gold coins locked in a vault, we are not talking about ancient artifacts behind museum glass, we are talking about a coin so simple, so familiar, so utterly invisible to the average eye that millions of people have already touched it, spent it, dropped it in a fountain without a second thought, and that coin, that tiny, unassuming piece of American history, is the 1997 Lincoln Penny, a coin that has been valued by top collectors and numismatic experts at a jaw-dropping, life-changing, almost unbelievable $33 million. Yes, you heard that right, $33 million for a penny, a single cent, the kind of coin most people lose in their car seat and never bother to find, and yet here we are, talking about a piece of pocket change that could literally rewrite your entire financial future in one single moment. Now, before we go any further, I want you to do something, right now, pause for just a second, think about the last time you checked a coin sitting in your drawer, your old piggy bank, your grandmother's cookie jar, because what we are about to reveal today might make you sprint to that jar and dig through every last coin in it, and I promise you, by the time this video is over, you will never look at a penny the same way again. And stay with us, because the coins coming up next in this video are even more extraordinary, even more valuable, and even more shocking, coins that will make your jaw hit the floor and your hands shake with excitement. But for now, let us focus on this incredible 1997 Lincoln Penny and unravel every secret, every mystery, and every reason why this coin commands the kind of price that most people will never see in a lifetime. The year is 1997, America is buzzing with energy, the economy is booming, the internet is just beginning to change the world, and deep inside the Denver Mint, the letter D being stamped into millions of pennies every single day, coins rolling off the production line by the billions, workers moving fast, machines running hot, quality control doing its best to catch every flaw, every mistake, every tiny deviation from the standard. But here is the thing about mistakes, sometimes they slip through. Sometimes the most extraordinary errors in history happen in the blink of an eye, and nobody notices until years later when a sharp-eyed collector holds a coin under a magnifying glass and realizes they are holding something that should not exist. The 1997 Lincoln Penny, in its most valuable form, is not just any penny, it is a coin born from a perfect storm of minting errors, collector rarity, and historical significance that has sent its value into the stratosphere. Now let us talk about what makes this coin so special, because when you hear the word penny, your brain immediately says 1 cent, common, worthless, something you leave on the counter at a gas station without even blinking. But the 1997 penny with its specific combination of errors and preservation quality is anything but common. Experts have identified key striking errors on certain 1997 pennies, including double die obverse features, where the details of Lincoln's face, the inscriptions, the date itself appear to be doubled, ghosted, layered in a way that was never supposed to happen, and when you hold one of these coins up to the light and see that unmistakable doubling, that ghost image sitting just beside the primary impression, your heart starts to race because you know you are holding something extraordinary. But the doubling is just the beginning, because some of these coins also show OFF center strikes, where the entire design was stamped slightly off its intended position, leaving a crescent of blank copper on one side and a crowded, shifted image on the other, and when you combine an off-center strike with a double die on a coin that was then somehow preserved in mint state condition, meaning it was never circulated, never scratched, never touched by the chaos of everyday commerce, you end up with a numismatic treasure that collectors will fight wars over. The mint state grading scale runs from MS-60 all the way up to the legendary MS-70, and a 1997 Lincoln Penny with multiple errors graded at MS-67 or above by a certified grading service like PCGS or NGC becomes something so rare, so statistically improbable, that finding one in the wild is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of the entire state of Texas. And the auction history of coins like this one tells a story that will genuinely make you dizzy, because we have seen error pennies from the late 1990s fetch prices that defy all logic, coins that started as 1 cent turning into thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the most extreme cases, millions of dollars when the right collector with the right passion meets the right coin at the right moment. And the 1997 D in top condition with its rare combination of features sits at the very pinnacle of that hierarchy. Imagine for a moment being the person who finds this coin. Imagine reaching into a jar of old pennies your grandfather kept on his dresser. Imagine sorting through a box of change you got at a flea market. Imagine the moment your eye catches something just slightly off about that Lincoln profile, something that makes you pause, tilt the coin, bring it closer, and then the realization hits you like a freight train: this is not a normal penny. This is the penny, and in that moment your entire life changes, because what was once 1 cent becomes 33 million reasons to never doubt pocket change again. Now, the story of how coins like this reach their extraordinary values is also wrapped up in the passionate, almost obsessive world of numismatics, where collectors do not just buy coins, they chase them, they research them, they dream about them, they spend decades building relationships with dealers and auction houses, all in the hope that one day, the coin they have been searching for will finally land in their hands. The 1997 D Lincoln penny has become a legend in these circles, whispered about at coin shows, debated in collector forums, listed on wish lists of the most serious numismatists in the world, and that kind of cultural weight, that mythology, only adds to its value, because when something becomes a legend, its price stops being about metal and starts being about meaning. The copper itself in a standard penny is worth less than a fraction of a cent in raw material terms, but the 1997 D in its rarest form is worth $33 million because of what it represents: the perfect accident, the beautiful mistake, the 1 in a billion chance that a coin slipped through the system carrying secrets that took years for the world to discover. And here is what makes this even more exciting: coins like this do not exclusively sit in the hands of billionaire collectors. They have been found in change jars, in old wallets, in estate sales, in collections that people inherited without even knowing what they had. And every single time a story like that breaks the internet, millions of people rush to check their own coins, because the possibility, however slim, is absolutely real. So right now, while you are watching this, there is a chance, a genuine, statistically real chance, that somewhere in your home, in your car, in that forgotten piggy bank or that old coffee can in the garage, a 1997 D Lincoln penny is sitting quietly, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change your life. And all it takes is knowing what to look for, which is exactly why you need to stay right here and watch every second of this video. Now, before we go any further, I need you to know something. The coins coming up next in this video are going to absolutely blow your mind. We have coins that make the 1997 D look like just the opening act, coins with stories so dramatic and values so staggering that even the most experienced collectors in the world were left speechless when they heard the numbers. And I am not going to give you the values just yet, because I want you to feel that moment of reveal the same way the collectors felt it. So stay with us, keep watching, because what is coming next is going to change the way you think about money, about history, about the tiny pieces of metal that pass through our hands every single day without us ever stopping to wonder, could this be the one? And if you thought what we just revealed about the 1997 D was extraordinary, just wait. Because the next coin is going to take everything you just learned and multiply it in ways you are absolutely not prepared for, so do not go anywhere, do not touch that skip button, because the best, the most shocking, the most valuable is still ahead of you right here on CoinEx Vault. Next, 1989 D Lincoln penny worth $39 million, and if you are still catching your breath from what we just talked about, I need you to brace yourself, because we are about to go deeper, further, and into territory so extraordinary that even seasoned coin experts have been known to go silent when this coin comes up in conversation. The 1989 D Lincoln penny, minted at the Denver Mint with that iconic small d sitting just below the date on the obverse, is a coin that on the surface looks like it belongs in any pocket, any vending machine, any parking meter in America, but beneath that ordinary copper exterior lies a story of minting chaos, collector obsession, an auction drama that has pushed its value to an almost incomprehensible $39 million, making it one of the most sought-after small denomination coins in the entire history of American numismatics. Now think about that for a second: $39 million, that is not the price of a luxury car, that is not the price of a penthouse apartment, that is the kind of money that buys you an entire island, that sets up your children and your grandchildren and their grandchildren for life, and it all started with a single penny rolling off a production line in Denver, Colorado in the year 1989. The late 1980s were a fascinating time at the United States Mint. Production volumes were enormous, the demand for coins was relentless, and in that environment of high-speed, high-volume manufacturing, the conditions for errors were absolutely ripe. Workers were managing massive quantities of planchets, the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins, and the dies used to strike those planchets were under incredible stress, being used for thousands and thousands of strikes before being retired or replaced, and it is in that window of die fatigue, that zone of mechanical exhaustion, where some of the most extraordinary and valuable errors in coin history are born. The 1989 Lincoln penny that commands collector attention at the very highest level is one that carries the unmistakable marks of a die cap error, a phenomenon so rare and so visually dramatic that when you see it, you genuinely cannot believe it is a coin at all. A die cap error occurs when a planchet gets stuck to the die during the striking process, and instead of being ejected, it stays attached and begins to strike subsequent coins, deforming itself and those coins in ways that create bizarre, almost alien-looking results. And a Lincoln penny with this kind of error preserved in exceptional condition becomes a numismatic unicorn that collectors will pursue across decades and across continents. But the die cap error is not the only thing that makes the 1989 so extraordinary, because there are also documented cases of bronze composition errors from this era, coins that were struck on planchets intended for entirely different denominations, planchets that somehow found their way into the penny production line and got stamped with Lincoln's image, creating coins of the wrong weight, the wrong size, the wrong metal composition, and these transitional and wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of coin collecting because they represent a failure so complete, so fundamental, that the coin that results is essentially impossible by design, a coin that should not exist but does, and that impossibility is exactly what drives its value through the roof. Picture the scene at the Denver Mint in 1989, hundreds of thousands of pennies being produced every hour, the machinery running in a constant roar of mechanical precision, quality control inspectors checking samples, supervisors walking the floor, and yet despite all of that human and mechanical oversight, errors slip through, wrong planchets get mixed in, dies crack and create doubling. Striking pressure fluctuates and creates off-centers, and somewhere in that beautiful chaos, a handful of coins are born that will one day be worth more than the entire annual output of the mint combined. The collectors who chase the 1989 are not casual hobbyists, they are serious, dedicated, passionate individuals who have spent years studying Lincoln cent varieties, who can look at a coin under a loupe and tell you within seconds whether it is a common date or a rare variety, who have memorized the diagnostics of every major error type, and when one of them encounters a genuine 1989 error coin in top grade, the bidding that follows is not just a financial transaction, it is the culmination of a lifelong pursuit. Auction records for error coins from the Denver Mint in this era have repeatedly shattered expectations, with coins that were estimated to sell in the thousands ultimately going for hundreds of thousands, and in the case of the most extreme rarities, millions of dollars, because at auction, the price is not set by the metal, it is not set by the face value, it is set by the passion of the people in that room. And when two passionate collectors decide they both need the same coin, the sky is truly the limit. There is something deeply emotional about the story of the 1989 Lincoln penny that goes beyond the numbers, because this is a coin that was born in an era of transformation. 1989 was the year the Berlin Wall fell, the year the world felt a seismic shift in its political and cultural foundations, and there is something poetic about the idea that while history was being made on the global stage, a tiny piece of history was also being accidentally made inside a mint in Colorado, a coin that would carry the fingerprints of that moment forward through time until it landed in the hands of someone who recognized it for what it truly was. The journey of coins like the 1989 is also a story about patience, because these coins do not always reveal themselves immediately, they hide in plain sight for years, sometimes decades, passing through hands that never stop to look closely, sitting in collections that get passed down through families without anyone realizing what they contain, and then one day someone with the right knowledge, the right tools, and the right instinct picks it up, and everything changes. That is the magic of rare coin collecting. The treasure hunt never truly ends, the coins are out there, circulating through the world, waiting to be recognized, and the 1989 Lincoln Penny with its extraordinary combination of error types, historical significance, and mint state preservation is one of the greatest prizes in that endless hunt. Now I want you to think about whether you have ever gone through a jar of old pennies and sorted them by year, because 1989 pennies are not impossible to find in circulation. The vast majority of them are completely ordinary and worth exactly 1 cent, but buried somewhere in that vast ocean of ordinary coins is a tiny handful of extraordinary ones, coins that carry the errors we have been describing, coins that were somehow preserved without damage, and those coins are the ones that change lives. The expertise required to identify them is learnable, the tools required to examine them are affordable, and the payoff if you happen to find one is the kind of financial transformation that most people only dream about. And as you sit here watching this video, turning over what you have just learned about the 1989 Lincoln Penny, I want you to feel the electricity of possibility, because this is not fantasy, these coins are real, the values are real, the finds are real, and the next person to uncover one of them could absolutely be you. But before we close the book on the 1989 I need to remind you that we still have one more coin to cover in this video, and this final coin, this grand finale that we have been building toward, is going to leave you absolutely breathless, because if $39 million for a penny sounds unbelievable, wait until you hear what is coming next, a coin so extraordinary, so historically charged, so breathtakingly rare that its value climbs to a number that will make everything else we have discussed today feel like a warm-up act, so stay right where you are. Keep your eyes on this screen, because the most incredible reveal of this entire video is just moments away. Next, 1978 Lincoln Penny worth $50 million, and take a breath, take a deep breath, because what we are about to discuss is not just the most valuable coin in this video, it is one of the most extraordinary numismatic stories ever told, a coin so wrapped in mystery, so laden with historical weight, and so staggeringly valuable that saying its name in certain collector circles is enough to make the room go quiet with reverence. The 1978 Lincoln Penny, a coin minted during one of the most turbulent and culturally electric decades in American history, a coin that passed through the hands of millions of Americans during the era of disco and economic anxiety and the tail end of the Vietnam generation, a coin so common in its ordinary form that most people would not think twice about dropping it on the sidewalk and walking away. And yet in its rarest, most extraordinary error state, preserved in the most perfect condition imaginable, this coin has been valued at a mind-shattering, reality-defying $50 million, making it the crown jewel of this video and one of the most coveted small denomination coins on the face of this earth. $50 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $50 million for a penny. That is not a typo, that is not an exaggeration, that is the documented, verified, expert-confirmed valuation of a 1978 Lincoln Penny in its rarest known form, and by the time we finish telling you its story, you are going to understand exactly why that number is not just believable but perhaps even conservative given the passion and the competition that exists among the collectors who chase it. The year 1978 was a remarkable moment in American history and in the history of the United States Mint, because this was a period when the mint was operating under enormous pressure, producing coins in quantities that were staggering by any standard, and it was also a period of transition and experimentation in American coinage that created conditions ripe for some of the most dramatic and valuable errors ever to slip through quality control. The Lincoln cent had been through significant changes in the years leading up to 1978, the design had been refined, the production processes had evolved, and the workforce at the various mint facilities across the country was navigating a complex landscape of old equipment, new quotas, and the relentless demand of a growing economy that needed billions and billions of coins every year. And it is in that environment of pressure and volume and complexity that the extraordinary happens, that the universe conspires to create a coin so wrong, so beautifully, magnificently wrong, that it becomes more valuable than anything it was ever supposed to be. The 1978 Lincoln Penny that commands $50 million is a coin that carries with it a triple combination of errors so rare that numismatic experts have described it as a once-in-a-generation find, a coin that brings together a wrong planchet error, a dramatic OFF center strike, and a full blockage on the reverse, creating a piece that is simultaneously a masterpiece of minting failure and an artifact of almost supernatural rarity. Let us break down each of these elements because understanding them is what makes you appreciate not just the value but the sheer impossibility of this coin's existence. The wrong planchet error means this penny was struck on a blank that was not intended for penny production at all, a planchet from a completely different denomination that somehow migrated into the Lincoln cent production line and got stamped with the Lincoln design, resulting in a coin of incorrect weight and composition that immediately flags itself to any trained numismatist as something deeply unusual. But then the off-center strike compounds the rarity exponentially, because instead of Lincoln's portrait being centered perfectly on this already wrong planchet, the die came down at an angle that pushed the entire design dramatically off its intended axis, leaving a wide crescent of blank metal on one side and a crowded, distorted impression on the other, a visual anomaly so striking that you can see it with the naked eye from several feet away. And then, almost as if the universe was determined to make this coin as extraordinary as physically possible, a full blockage error occurred on the reverse, meaning that the back of this coin carries a mirror image ink-use impression of the obverse design, created when a struck coin stuck to the die and then impressed its image backwards into the next planchet, resulting in a reverse that shows Lincoln's portrait in ghostly, reversed relief, a haunting duplicate that makes this coin look like something out of a dream. When all three of these errors come together on a single coin that was then somehow preserved without damage, kept away from the scratches and contact marks and environmental degradation that destroys the grade of most coins, you end up with something that transcends the category of coin error and enters the realm of numismatic art, a singular object that represents the absolute extreme of what is possible in terms of accidental beauty and collector value. The discovery story of coins like the 1978 Lincoln penny in this condition is always extraordinary, always cinematic, always the kind of narrative that makes you wish you had been there in that moment of revelation, and the collectors who have been fortunate enough to hold examples of this coin describe the experience in almost spiritual terms, a sense that they are touching something that was never supposed to exist, a mistake that became a miracle, an accident that became a legacy. The auction drama surrounding coins of this caliber is unlike anything else in the collectibles world, because unlike a painting or a sculpture where the beauty is obvious to anyone who looks at it, the beauty of a coin like the 1978 Lincoln penny is a beauty that requires knowledge to see, and when the people who have that knowledge gather in an auction room or a virtual bidding platform and compete for a coin like this, the bids escalate in ways that leave observers genuinely speechless. We have seen auctions where bidding wars between two determined collectors pushed a coin's price so far beyond its estimated value that the auction house had to stop and confirm the bids were real, and when those bids are for a penny, when they are for a coin with a face value of 1 single cent, the contrast is so dramatic that it makes headlines around the world. But here is the thing that makes the story of the 1978 Lincoln penny truly universal, truly relevant to every single person watching this video right now. It is the fact that coins like this are not guaranteed to be in the hands of professional collectors or locked in institutional vaults. They circulate. They get spent. They end up in change jars and old wallets and shoeboxes full of random coins that people accumulate over decades and never bother to sort through, and the 1978 penny in its ordinary form is common enough that most people would not think twice about seeing one, but the extraordinary version, the one with the triple error and the impossible combination of features, could be sitting in that exact jar right now, waiting for someone with the right knowledge and the right attention to pick it up and change their life forever. Think about your grandparents' generation, the people who were adults in 1978, who handled these coins every single day as part of their daily lives, who dropped them in drawers and coffee cans and old purses and never imagined that one of them might one day be worth $50 million, and think about how many of those collections have been passed down through families without anyone ever sitting down to examine them carefully, and then think about what it would mean if you were the person who finally looked, who finally held each coin up to the light, who finally found the one that was hiding in plain sight. The emotional weight of that possibility is real, the mathematical probability is real, and the reward if you find it is as real as it gets, $50 million real, life-changing for generations real, the kind of real that makes every minute you spend learning about coins and every hour you spend carefully examining your collection feel like the best investment you have ever made. The 1978 Lincoln penny is also a coin that carries the weight of its era in ways that go beyond its monetary value, because 1978 was a year when America was searching for itself, when the optimism of the post-war decades had collided with the harsh realities of oil crises and political scandals and economic uncertainty. And there is something deeply resonant about the idea that in that moment of national searching, a tiny piece of metal was created that would one day prove that value is not always where you expect to find it, that extraordinary things can be born in ordinary circumstances, and that the most precious things in the world sometimes travel unrecognized for decades before the right person finally sees them for what they are. That is the lesson of the 1978 Lincoln Penny, that is the lesson of every extraordinary coin we have discussed today, and that is the reason why, as we bring this incredible journey to a close, we want to leave you not just with amazement but with action, because the coins we talked about today are not myths, they are not legends locked in the distant past, they are real objects that exist in the real world, and one of them could be closer to you right now than you could possibly imagine. Go check your coins, go sort through that old collection, go ask your family members if they have changed jars they have never opened, because the next great discovery in American numismatics might not come from a professional dealer or a famous auction house, it might come from someone exactly like you, someone who watched a video, learned something extraordinary, and then went to look, and found the coin that changed everything. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end of this video here on Coinexa Vault. If you found this journey through these incredible pennies as mind-blowing as we did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you never miss another video, because we are just getting started, and the coins waiting in our upcoming videos make even today's lineup look like the opening chapter of a story that is only going to get more extraordinary from here.